So in the last video, we looked at the schematics for the Dual Vic systems, the sound outputs, and we figured out where the latches were, what they did, and how to trigger them. Now we're going to build an actual little tester out of LED, a bunch of LEDs, and a Molex connector to go ahead and test them. So the first thing we need to do is get this 12 position Molex connector. These are the 0.1 inch Molex KK type connectors that you see on video monitors. Then take an LED and take the connector that goes in the Molex connector, crimp on the positive, which is the long end of the LED, to the little Molex pin. So you can see here, I put the positive terminals in slots from the right 1 through 8, and then in this slot here, 1 from the left, I put a piece of metal, and I did use the connector there too. And dropped it. Put the piece of metal in there, that's ground, and ran it and soldered it to all those wires. So that's how that works. And then we'll put it on. So here's a tester, and you can see on a carnival board it lights up. There you go. Now we'll show how I wrote the test code, and then we'll actually test the test code. Okay, so let's now look at the code that I wrote to use this little test device that I made. Again, all it's doing is using what's called the out statement to write a value, high or low, well, a series of a byte worth of values to what's called a port. And let's just say a port is basically the same as a memory address. It's not, but it is. But for all we care about, it's basically the same as a memory address, except for when you access it, there's a different pin on the CPU that's saying, hey, this is a port, not a memory address. Let's just go with that, because it's easiest to explain that way, and it's for the most part correct. I like to take a little bit of liberties with things to just make things easier to understand. But I think that is pretty clear, and 99% correct. Okay, so here's the code. So now what I'm using is something called Ocean Soft, I don't know. Z80 simulator, Ashan, I don't know. It's some Russian dude. At least it looks like a Russian name. That Vladimir Soso. But it's a really nice Z80 assembler and debugger. You could emulator. You'd see here we have the registers and what's going on. Here's the code. We'll assemble it. It's like $15. And I bought this years ago for a Frogger, to make a Frogger test ROM, and for $15, it's pretty amazing, So anyway, if you're interested in learning this, go check them out. That dude out, Ocean. I'm going to show you that again. Give him some free, give him a free shout out. Come on, it's gone. Ocean, OSHON soft.com. Okay. Pay $15 or whatever it is, $20, and it's a lifetime, license. I don't think you get updates forever, but I've been using the same copy forever. I might just give them another $20 just because it's a nice product. Anyway, enough of that. So here we go. Here's our assembler window, and this is the Z80 code. And what these things here are just labels. And so the first thing we do is, the first instruction we have is jump to clear LEDs. So when the CPU resets, basically it goes to address 0 and executes the instruction. At address 0, this is going to be address 0. We're going to jump to this. And this org statement just means at 26 hexadecimal, the address 26 hexadecimal, because that's way past the vector table. Don't worry about what the vector table is, but basically we cannot put our code right at the beginning. We have to leave some space. So the Carnival code actually starts at 26 hex, so that's where I started. I could look up the actually length of the vector table and figure out where it is, but I just assumed they did that, and 26 hex sounds great. That's at byte in decimal. That's in byte 38, right? So we do first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna just jump there, and then this clears the LEDs, because if we don't do this, the LEDs will be in whatever state, basically random state, when whatever the state the electrons were in when you powered it up. So the first thing we do is load the number 0 into A, register A, then load number 1 into C. Then we use the out statement, which writes to port whatever C is, which is 1, the value of A, 0. So it's going to write to port 1 the value 0. That's to clear all the LEDs in pin 29 through 36. Then we increment C, which makes C equal to 2, and then we write to port 2, again the number 0, clear all the red LEDs at pin 41 through 48. So then we're gonna set A back to 0. We're gonna set C to A, which is also 0, and then we're increment C, which is going to 1, and that's the start of our loop that's going to write every bit from bit 0 to bit 7 on that port. Okay, so that's the start. Then set L to 1. So this is, L is going to be the port that we, the value that we write to. We're going to write 1 bit at a time, so we'll only ever have 1 LED lit up, and that's going to be L. So we start we start again A to 0, A to L, so L is 0, and then increment L. So that's going to, every time we go through this to this loop, we're going to increment L, so it's going to go from 0 to 7, basically. Start loop, I don't know why I call it start loop, because it's really not the start loop. And OO means it's just basically we're setting A to 0 again. It's another way of saying LDA0. Why didn't I write that? I don't know. I'm just used to anding things to zero, anding 0, because if you and anything, and on the Z80, if you we'll do the logical, Boolean and operation on whatever is in register A. And anytime you and anything with 0, the result is 0. So this is basically the same as this. So as you've probably learned in computer stuff, there's more than one way to do the same thing. These are both exactly basically the same instruction. Why did I choose and 0 there? I don't know. I literally don't remember. I wrote this a few weeks ago. I do not remember why I did that rather than LDA0. More than likely, this is a shorter instruction. I'm used to writing short instructions whenever possible because I'm a super optimization type person. All right, anyway, whatever. So then we're going to load B to 0. And you see this says 256 times. Basically, what we're going to do here is we're going to do something 256 times 256 times. Basically, it's going to be like 64,000 times. We're going to write something and we're going to loop. Okay, so we're going to loop this basically 64,000 times. And why does it say 256 times? Is because we're actually using 2 registers each of 256, and that will be our loop. So here's a loop. First thing we do is we write to address C, okay, which is 0 right now. The value of L, which is right now 1. Okay, and then if B is not equal to 0, that's what this means. Decrement, jump, not 0 loop. So B, it's going to subtract 1 from B, and if B is not 0, it's just going to go back here, and it's going to keep doing that. So it's going to keep writing. We don't actually have to write each time because the way the hardware is set up, once you write to that port, it's going to stay in that. It's using what's called a latch. It's going to stay that way until you change it. But it's actually more complicated to write a code to do it one time and then not do it every other time in the loop. So I'm just going to keep writing to it. Basically. All right, so there we go. So, so this is going to happen 256 times. Then we're going to subtract 1 from A. And A is at 0. So what? It's going to be -1, which actually is going to be 255. Because when you go to 0 and you subtract 1, it is going to go to, basically, it's going to go the highest number that register can hold. It's called underflow. So it's actually, it makes logically no sense if you're used to normal math, but in computers it makes 100% sense. So just trust me on this. This is going to go, A is going to go 100 to 255, and then this is jump, not 0, and that's going to be looking for A. It's going to wait till A gets back to 0 again. So this is how I get the 256 times 256, basically. Okay. And I did the same thing actually here with B. B started at 0, and the first time through the loop we subtract, and then it's 255. So it's 256 times 256 gets you 65,536 or 65,535. I don't remember. One of those two numbers is going to get you that number of times, which is going to be like, when all these loops are said and done in the number of cycles. I think the Z80 on this board is, I want to say 2 megahertz, 2 million cycles per second, but each instruction doesn't actually take 1 cycle. Basically, this loop is going to be about, the LEDs are going to be lit for about half a second. All right. Anyway, so as long as it's not equal to 0, as A is not equal to 0, we go back to 0B. So we reset B again. So we do it 256 times, and then we subtract 1 from A, and then do it another 256 times. That's where we get our 64,000 basically times. Once that's done, we're going to shift left L, which is actually going to let us move to the next set of pins, the next port. Actually, basically, L is the port number. And jump not carry. If we haven't, oh, I'm sorry, no. L is not the port number. L is the bit position we're switching. So one LED's going to change each time we go through this for about half a second. Okay. So once it's gotten through all 8 bits, 0 through 7, then it's going to go back to start loop, clear everything, and I'm sorry. Each time, not once it's done. Each time, it's going to do this 64,000 countdown. Right? Then, once it's all done, doing this for 64,000 times for each bit position, 0 through 1, so each light is changing, then it's going to shift C, which is actually the port number, and basically do it all again. And if we only want to do 2 ports, so this thing says basically once we have bit 2 is set, which is actually bit 3 if you think about it, or is it? Oh, I forget. I don't remember. Point is, we're going to do this for ports for port 0 and port 1, which is those 2 different outputs on the board. And then we're going to go back all the way to the beginning and do it again. So basically, for each LED, we're going to do that. And then once it's all done, and we went through both sets, both boards, or both basically of the pins, the 8-pin connectors, then we're going to start it all over again, clear everything, and start again. Okay, so that's the code. Okay, so now let's test this thing out. I used one of I call these SRBP Pro boards. These are Z80 based things that you can use to replace. They go in the CPU slot, and you can put, 27512 ROM on there, which is as much as a Z80 can access natively without something called bank switching. So you can put anything that can go on the Z80 board on there. And so this has no chips in it, and it's just got my test code on it. Turn the light on for a second. And we hit the button, and you can see it's doing it. So it's going through all those, and then it will eventually disappear. I didn't have it clear that last bit after it was done, so now it's restarting. When it switch over to this side, now it's switching actually over this side. And here's the neat thing. Let me turn this on. This is the really neat thing. You can do this even if you are bad or missing RAM. Even if you're missing literally all the RAM. So I'm going to take out all the RAM. And you can see it's still actually running the code. I'm sure you can see that, but in case you can't, we'll see that the lights actually are, when it comes back around. Okay? It's actually running the code without any RAM. So you say, I know what you're thinking. And you're thinking, wait, that doesn't make any sense. How can you run a program on a computer without any RAM? And that's an excellent question. The answer is the CPU actually has some built-in RAM. They're called registers. And actually everything the CPU does is actually based on registers. That means when it's actually reading the program and all that, and doing calculations and playing a game, before it does anything in RAM, that data is actually transferred into a register and then accessed. So you can actually write a very simple code without any RAM. You obviously do have to have ROMs on there, all right, because it does need to be able to actually read the program, but you can actually run this program without any actual RAM. And you can understand where I'm going with this is if I can do that without any RAM, and I have a way of outputting something visual, I could actually write a RAM tester program that actually can tell me if I have a bad RAM and show me by lighting up LEDs. And kind of diagnose it that way. That's actually how a lot of the early Atari boards did it, like the ones that had like beep codes. The problem with Atari beep codes is often the pokey would be bad, and you can't beep when the pokey's bad. So, because the pokey controls the sound, or they have this little op amp that will always go bad. So you could have actually bad RAM. It's trying to tell you what the bad RAM is, but you'll never hear it. So this is a little easier. This is a very simple solution. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to someday hopefully write a RAM tester program that will test the RAMs using this little sound tester LED setup that I have created. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'm actually really excited about how we tied MAME and physical hardware and software, this assembly language programming, all together. I'm really proud about that. So I hope you enjoyed it. If not, well, too bad. I enjoyed it, and I'm sure someone enjoyed it. If one person enjoys it, then I enjoyed it. The fact that, well, actually I enjoyed it. Even if everyone hates it, I enjoyed it. So have a great day.